Today, we bring another development currently ongoing in Burkina Faso. While President Traore has been focused on battling insecurity in the country, as well as building the AES alliance, he has not forgotten that the development of infrastructure is also very important. Now, when it comes to choosing experts who would be involved in the construction of massive projects, Western technicians and engineers are usually the preferred choice, most especially in cases where local technicians and engineers do not have the technical know-how. However, in line with Traore's policy of distancing himself from the West, the president has chosen to partner with Iran, and frankly speaking, this is the best move. Unlike the West and its big multinational corporations notable for exploiting African countries, this new deal with Iran promises to be a win-win partnership. So, what exactly are Burkina Faso and Iran planning together? The Iranian Minister of Cooperative Labor and Social Welfare, Sayed Saulat Mortazavi, recently paid a visit to Ibrahim Traore in Burkina Faso. This visit was necessary because Sayed Mortazavi, as Minister of Cooperative Labor, is in charge of any kind of construction, engineering, farming, or hospitality work in Iran. This means anything that has to do with basic infrastructure for the people. So, what does this mean? It means that President Traore has decided to work with Iran and make use of Iranian technology in the development of infrastructures in Burkina Faso. These infrastructures include bridges, buildings, and constructions of farming technology. Essentially, instead of French companies, which used to be the preferred partners in situations like these, Traore has chosen to partner with Iran, a country that has been subjected to countless sanctions by the West. However, despite the sanctions Iran has been subjected to, it has not dampened their spirit or reduced their quest for technological innovations. If you recall, one of the reasons why Iran was sanctioned by the USA is because it was developing nuclear weapons. But not only is the country's technology a marvel, its architecture is also top-notch. If you also recall, Burkina Faso has bought high-grade military equipment from Iran, so ditching the West in this case to partner with Iran is not a bad move at all. As we said, the Iranian Minister of Cooperative Labor tracked to Burkina Faso to meet with President Traore to discuss the deal. He was received by President Traore himself at the capital city, Ouagadougou. The Iranian minister, together with other delegates, met with President Traore as part of the Joint Commission for Economic Cooperation between Burkina Faso and Iran. Speaking during the meeting, the Iranian minister said, "This cooperation between the two countries, Iran and Burkina Faso, is really important for us. During these last months, we have worked on different areas with many meetings of experts from both countries." He further added that the areas of education, training, housing, environment, health, and energy were discussed during the Joint Commission. The Joint Cooperation Commission resulted in a memorandum of understanding between the two countries, which will serve as a roadmap for deepening relations between the countries. According to the Prime Minister of Burkina Faso, Iran pursues mutual benefits and interaction with African countries, which is why we are ready to exchange Iran's capacities and capabilities with that of African countries. The Prime Minister further expressed interest in deepening cooperation with Iran in infrastructure, communication, scientific, and knowledge-based fields. Now, on the sidelines of the second Iran-African International Conference, the Prime Minister of Burkina Faso met with the late President of Iran, Ibrahim Traore, to discuss cooperation between Iran and Burkina Faso. During the meeting, President Ibrahim Traore noted that the development of relations between Iran and the African continent is a priority for Iran, and that Iran pursues the mutual interest of both countries. It was during this meeting that President Traore stressed the need to accelerate the establishment of mechanisms that will strengthen the Iranian and Burkinabe cooperation. And one such mechanism was the activation of the Joint Commission of Iran and Burkina Faso. Traore further highlighted the good capacity and remarkable progress that has been made by the Republic of Iran in various sectors, including mining, agriculture, oil and energy, and science and technology. He said, "With regards to the great capacities in the African continent for advancement and progress, the Islamic Republic of Iran is ready to cooperate, exchange, and interact these capacities with African countries, including Burkina Faso. We are confident that the development of these relations will benefit both countries. In response, the Prime Minister of Burkina Faso described Iran and its citizens as the owners of a great civilization and expressed the interest of Burkina Faso in developing relations with Iran. The Burkinabe Prime Minister went further to condemn the false narrative given by the Western media regarding Iran. He said, "Contrary to Western propaganda, Iran is an independent, developing, and advanced country that adds to its attractiveness to develop and strengthen relations with it in all fields." However, Burkina Faso is not the only country that Iran has sought to build relations with in recent times. In fact, before the death of the former Iranian president, Ibrahim Traore, Iran was steadfast and committed to building relations with African countries. And one of the reasons why the country is seeking a partnership with Africa is to expand trade relations with Africa and potentially circumvent US-led sanctions. If you can recall, Traore visited 3 African countries in mid-July last year, and the visit was touted by the Iranian media as launching a new beginning in relations with Africa. The visit by President Raisi was the first since the 2013 visit by the former president of Iran, President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad. Since the beginning of his presidency, Raisi has prioritized resetting relations with Africa, which his predecessor, Hassan Rouhani, had previously not placed as a priority because he was focused on nuclear negotiations with the United States and other world powers. So, while other Iranian wealthy rivals such as Saudi Arabia and the UAE had formed ties with Africa, Iran was left out. Although the visit was characterized by Iranian officials as primarily to boost trade and commercial ties in East Africa, President Raisi, on his part, indicated that his objectives were to build new alliances with which to exert leverage against the growing economic and diplomatic pressure on Iran from the United States and Europe. Members and institutions of all 3 governments, particularly Zimbabwe, have been targeted by US sanctions for alleged human rights abuses, corruption, and election-related violence. While Kenya has not been subject to such sanctioning in some time, Ugandan officials were recently sanctioned over the country's anti-homosexuality legislation. Resentment over US sanctions resonates strongly in Iran as well as in the countries visited by Raisi, so the visit by the Iranian president showed a kind of solidarity. The sanctions placed on Iran and the 3 African countries he visited is only one aspect on which they related. These countries also formed a bond based on the Russia-Ukraine war. While Iran is materially supporting Russia, both Uganda and Zimbabwe abstained from the key UN General Assembly vote in March 2022 to condemn the Russian invasion. Although Kenya's president, William Ruto, sided with NATO leaders, he warmly received Raisi on his arrival to his country and recently characterized tensions between North and South as similar to the deteriorating relations between the West and China. During his stop in Uganda, Raisi pointed out another issue on which both countries aligned, which was that Kampala, Uganda's capital, aligned with Tehran's views on social issues. Raisi called Western nations' support for homosexuality one of the dirtiest episodes of human history, and publicly supported Uganda's recently passed legislation prescribing the death penalty for aggravated homosexuality, a legislation that attracted widespread Western condemnation. After meeting with Museveni, Raisi stated, "I believe that this issue and these strong attacks by the West against the establishment of families and against the culture of the nations is another area of cooperation for Iran and Uganda." Beyond building new partnerships, Iranian leaders and their East African counterparts also sought practical outcomes from the visit. First and foremost, as was evident in Raisi's June trip to 3 Latin American countries with whom the United States has strained or hostile relations, Raisi and the Iranian businessmen in his delegation sought to forge economic ties that would help Tehran undermine the effects of Western sanctions. In advance of the trip, Iran's foreign ministry publicly forecast that trade with all African countries will increase to more than $2 billion in 2023. Raisi also specifically mentioned Africa's mineral resources and Iran's petrochemical experience as potential bases for expanded economic cooperation. The visit by Iran and Africa's acceptance of the visit shows that no longer would the West be the sole partner of the continent. They are indeed losing ground, as more countries want to partner with Africa. This means more choices for Africa to decide on. The West can no longer afford to continue with the imperialistic way they have related with Africa, because they are no longer the only ones in the game. With this choice of partners, Africa can now enjoy the benefit from trade, military, and technology that come with partnering with different countries, which have been denied for a long time by the West. Africa is indeed rising. What are your thoughts? Let us know in the comments section below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video.